This is a message about what's coming next with. Sorry. I was like, what is that? It's my cat's feet. I don't know if you can see him poking out the side of the video. But, anyways, this is a message about what is next with your purpose. So, this is definitely a message for someone who is on a spiritual path and suspects that you might be being guided to go into some sort of spiritual calling as part of your purpose and service in the world. I pulled from the Archetypes deck and I got the Seeker. It says, thirst for wisdom and truth wherever you are. So someone who's constantly learning, constantly growing, constantly evolving. We also have the Father, and it says talent for creating and supporting life, positive guiding light within a tribal unit. And we also have Priest. And it says facilitates spiritual commitments, serves as a channel of spiritual energy. So I feel like there is this current of divinity coming through these three cards. There is this gentle guiding energy coming through these three cards. Also providing a little bit of structure. Both the Father and the Priest kind of invoke masculine archetypes. So it's not super rigid structure, but it is a little bit of holding that allows for the Seeker to go on its journey. So I do feel like this is someone who you've been going through a process of being shaped to be a spiritual guide in some way, where you are advising people, you are maybe even coaching people, you are holding space for people to have their own journey, seek out the light for themselves, seek out more wisdom and understanding within themselves. What's also interesting is that I pulled from the Earth Warriors deck, and we got number 39, which is Tawodi, and this card talks about spiritual maturation. So I feel like throughout the spread, of course, you've been on your own journey of seeking, of learning, of understanding of self. And part of that journey has been encountering your own hesitancy and fear around showing up in this way, around being a leader, around being a teacher, around being a guide. You've been struggling with your own fears. And these fears have to do with self-confidence. We got the Strength card coming up. Self-confidence, as well as Queen of Swords reverse. So I feel, being overly critical of yourself, other people being overly critical of you, maybe feeling at times you get too much in your head. And so you're constantly editing what you're trying to say or what you're trying to convey. You're constantly worried about how it's being received. There's a disconnection at times from your heart and from your emotions, and a lack of trust of your own heart's wisdom because of this mental kind of pressure to fit into society standards, to not ruffle any feathers, to be palatable, to be someone that doesn't, get a lot of backlash with things that you might say. But unfortunately, that energy of people pleasing, in a sense, has been keeping you out of a level of spiritual maturity that you needed to fully immerse yourself into this path of a leader and of a teacher and of a guide. So that's what you've been dealing with, is really understanding how to wrestle with those fears and how to develop a sense of a compass and kind of your North Star within yourself, and the confidence within your North Star within yourself to speak your mind, to say what's on your heart, and to ultimately be able to hold space for others in this way. Also, you have been with the Two of Wands here. I do feel like it was clarified by the Nine of Wands reversed. I do feel like there's some defensiveness, some paranoia, some fear. Again, similar to the Queen of Swords reversed, about what people might say, how you might be perceived. Just overly fearful. Maybe from times that you were hurt in the past. Maybe from times where you were knocked down in the past, you were heavily criticized in the past, embarrassed. And so it's like you've been looking at the world, looking at where you could possibly go, but you haven't been moving. And that's been purposeful because you've been going through this spiritual maturation. So it's not, you haven't been held back of any fault of your own. You've been in a holding pattern so that you could level up, so that you could rise to another level of trust and understanding within yourself to be this guiding light for others. See what else? Okay, Ten of Cups. Eight of Cups. Okay, Four of Pentacles reversed and the Four of Wands reversed. I do feel like there has been a need to understand where you belong, understand where your soul family is. This whole journey of you getting more comfortable in your voice, more confident in your voice, trusting yourself and your voice to lead you forward, has been a process of aligning with your soul family. So if you've been shunned, if you've been abandoned, those were not your people. We know this. But the more that you step into your authentic voice, the more that you speak your mind, the more that you aren't afraid to ruffle any feathers, because you have to ruffle feathers. That's the thing. You have to ruffle feathers so that the people who are not for you can fall away, because they're actually taking up space and kind of like, I don't want to say sucking you dry, but yeah, kind of energetically, they're taking up space and they're creating dissonance in your energy field. So that's where the sucking you dry energy that I was picking up on is coming from. They're creating dissonance in your energy field. And that creates confusion in your mind around who you are, who you really are, what things you value, what things you want to express, what's on your heart truly. Those people resonate with your deeply wounded frequency. So they show me the seal as a representation of deeply wounded victim kind of consciousness energy. So the people that are in your field, that are attracted to the people-pleasing part of you, that are attracted to this reticent, holding back, fearful, defensive, paranoid part of you, those people are attracted to and honestly feeding within you. They're feeding that victim consciousness. They're feeding that wounded energy, and they're blocking your actual soul family from coming in. So I do feel like they're giving you this message as incentive for speaking up, for speaking your mind, for pissing people off. I really do feel like you have to learn to piss people off and sit in that and not backtrack and not edit yourself, not change your message, but just make people upset. Not because you're trying to stir the pot, but literally just because you're being yourself. Literally just because you're speaking from your heart, what feels true to you. And they're also letting you know that that's where your magnetism comes from. That when you are holding back and when you're trying to please everybody, you are not magnetic. And so you probably notice that things start to slow down for you. You're not getting as many opportunities. Maybe your money slows down. Whatever it is, it's creating the sludge in your environment. I just heard the word corporate too. So if you're trying to be too corporate, right? Whether you work in corporate or not, when you're trying to be corporate, you're trying to be politically correct, and that's not you. That's not you. That's not who you came here to be. Those are not the people who you are meant to guide either. They're not going to be attracted to that. That's why you lose your magnetism when you're in that energy. The people that are meant to be guided by you are the people who are also here to speak their mind and also here to ruffle feathers and also terrified of doing that. So when they see you doing that, your light becomes this beacon. They're like, oh, they're doing it. I need to learn how to do this. I need this person's help. So yeah, it's learning how to exist in a world where not everybody loves you, and let that be okay. You don't need to be everybody's cup of tea, and not just let that be okay, but almost enjoy it. That's the word I'm looking for. It feels like lavish. It feels like, I don't know what the word is, but it feels like really settle into it. Really, instead of being fearful of people disagreeing or not liking you or rejecting you, it's this kind of dark feminine pleasure that comes from that. And you can tap into that energy, and it takes conscious awareness within yourself to tap into that energy. But it's a switch. I'm seeing it as a switch that you can make in your consciousness with mindfulness, right? So catching yourself in that spiral of thought of, oh my God, what does this person think? What do they think? What is it? Blah, 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 blah. Catching yourself in that spiral and shifting, calling in that dark feminine power, that dark feminine pleasure of being. It's like Lilith energy also I'm feeling here of being your radically authentic self. There is a part of you that learned to feel safe keeping the peace. And so that's what you're needing to let go of at this time. And it's almost like, when I pulled the 10 of Cups and the 8 of Cups, it is like walking away from the 10 of Cups, because the 10 of Cups, this 10 of Cups and this spread is showing up out of 4 of Wands reverse energy. Like it's a false sense of everything's fine, everything's good. It's like you learned to try to uphold this, even at the expense of yourself, even at the expense of your authentic emotions and just authenticity in general. You learned, and this might have been with your own family unit, you learned that, okay, I just need to shrink myself to help this stay intact. Because if I don't shrink myself, then I will break this family apart somehow, right? And so you learn that being the peacemaker, being someone who creates harmony in a family structure, maybe in your friendship group, it could be anywhere, you learn to feel emotionally safe doing that. And the lesson you're learning now is to let go of that safety, is to let go of being the one who keeps it all together. And instead, tap into your raw expression. I heard the word violent. Now, it doesn't have to literally be violent. I feel violent is being said more in the energetic sense, where you're not afraid to, this sounds, just bear with me, you're not afraid to cause harm. And again, it doesn't mean that you are intentionally harming people. And it just means that, like, I'm guilty of this, definitely. But some of us, we are so careful with what we say in our words because we're so afraid to cause harm that, again, we're editing ourselves so much down to almost nothing that our raw expression gets lost. And I feel like Lilith energy coming through to say that your raw expression is powerful, and it's why you're here. It's why you're here, and it's something that the world needs. And yeah, sometimes you might mess up and say the wrong thing or go too far and cause harm. But to hold back, to be someone who holds back so much that you never cause harm, is diluting your essence too much. So you've got to let it rip. And as you let it rip, you're going to learn where the line is. And that's something that you learn with experience as you go. And I think that's something you've been learning through this whole process as well, which is why this card was here talking about spiritual maturation. That's something that you have been learning. But you're only going to learn that through experience. You're not going to learn that through theory. And you're not going to learn that by being so perfect all the time either. So you've got to open up to making mistakes, going too far, saying the wrong thing, but understanding that you can always course correct. You can always, I think the main message coming through here is your heart is what matters the most. So it's like, you know your heart, you know your integrity. That's why learning to trust yourself is so important. That even if you go too far, you can always reel it back in. You can always take accountability. You can always course correct, and you're always going to be pure of heart. That can never be taken from you. So I feel like dark feminine Lilith type energy is coming in to say, rest in your heart and in your knowing of your heart and your integrity and yourself, and express that in a raw, vulnerable, powerful way. Let's see. The final messages. I love when the cards echo what I was just talking about. So we have Quicksilver. This is all about being kind of slippery in between realms, in the liminal space, and shifting in and out of dimensions. This is someone who may be a shapeshifter, who's quick. You also may be someone who's a messenger. This card is associated with the planet Mercury. So it's like your messages, they may come in quickly and you need to be able to receive them, but they can be gone just as quickly as they come in. So when you're editing yourself too much and you're in that mentality of being so careful, treading so lightly, you're going to miss a lot of the messages that you're supposed to deliver. You're going to miss a lot of the teachings that you're supposed to share because you're editing them out. And so the Quicksilver energy, it's so quick. It really just needs to like hit your dome and like be expressed. And again, you're going to learn where that line is as you go. You're going to get more comfortable with trusting that right away as you go. But the whole editing process is really slowing you down. Winter is the inward, the time that we spend going inward to evaluate. Yeah, so they're saying that they don't want you in this Queen of Swords reversed energy in your head editing what you have to deliver. They want you maybe at your altar. They want you in meditation. They want you doing breath work. They want you inward, deeply inward, just processing, feeling your feelings, healing, because your messages are going to come from that place. And you won't have to worry about using your mental processes to edit, because again, your mind is conditioned from society. So your mind is going to try to keep you safe. It's going to use logic. It's going to try to keep you in the box of society. So they want you out of your mind. They want you in your body. They want you in that kind of deep, luscious, inward place that we go when we're doing spiritual work. They want your messages to come from there. They want your preparation to deliver your messages to come from there. They want your trust in your messages to come from there. And then the reason I laughed was because the third card that came out was Earth. And then the reason I laughed is because the third card that came out was Earth's heart. And so we were just talking about how being anchored in your heart is the solution, understanding the integrity of your heart. And I feel that this is where you teach from. This is where you teach from. This is where you guide from. When you're connected to the earth, connected to your heart, which is connected to the earth, you're doing your inward work, you're at your altar, you're in the stillness, and that's where the messages and downloads and teachings and all of that is going to come from and come through. And this, again, you can trust this. You don't need to bring this through your mind filter, because your mind filter is the filter of society. And you are someone who is here to guide us out of the way society has been run for generations. It's time for a change. You cannot guide us in the Queen of Swords reversed energy, because that's what we've been living in. You can't guide us in the Nine of Wands reversed energy. This fearful, defensive, I need to protect myself, I need to make sure that I fit into the boxes and structures of everything. That's not where we're going. And so when you come from that energy, you will feel stagnant. You will feel confused. You will not know where to go, because you're not supposed to go forward in that. So you're not going to have the passion and the drive and the motivation and the clarity that you need to move forward, because you're not supposed to move forward in that energy. It's only until you slow down, you reconnect with your heart, the rhythms of the earth, right? You go inward and you find that stillness, that your clarity is going to come through. And that's where you lead and you guide people from.